My rich girlfriend came back to me after she dumped me for being poor. Now her father works for me. For background, my family came from humbling beginnings. My dad worked as a janitor for a school while my mom cleaned houses for a small business. We weren't the poorest, but we weren't middle class as well. My family tried everything to provide for me, and it taught me how to work hard for the things I wanted. In high school, I started talking to this girl in class. Let's say her name is Jenny. Jenny and I were lab partners, and we quickly clicked together and started hanging out more and more every day. I even asked her to go to prom with me, and we went to prom together. I knew Jenny came from a rich background. She practically lived in a mansion, and her father had a high executive position at an electric company. Everything went well until I met her family. Her father asked what my parents did for a living and saw that their smiles faded away when they found out my dad was a janitor and my mom was a maid. A few weeks later, Jenny became distant and broke off with me through text. I later found out that she started dating another guy from my school that came from a rich background as well. I got mad and confronted her. "So you're just gonna throw away our relationship just like that?" I asked her. She looked at me with a cold stare and said that she couldn't be with me because I'm poor and that she needed to be with someone with the same class as her. I was heartbroken. I wanted to cry, but I kept it together and walked away. It didn't help when my parents both liked her. I didn't want to tell them that she broke off with me just because all my parents did was try to make a living. It would break their heart as well. I wasn't good at school, so I went to trading school and became an electrician. For the next couple years, I worked my ass off every day to the point I started making a decent income. While everyone was in college, I was working and hustling. I used that anger from my breakup to fuel my work. After a couple more years of working, I decided to open my own business and became my own boss. Though owning a business was a tough experience, I started to gain profit after a couple months, and my hard work started paying off. I began buying real estate with the money I had earned and became a landlord. Eventually, my company expanded so well that I started taking down each competition one by one. If they were small, I ended up buying them out. I later bought this electric company from a man who was about to pass away. He believed that I could preserve his legacy, and it was the only company that was still profitable. Buying them would make me the only competition. Turns out, one of the directors in that company had a familiar name. It was Jenny's father. My rich girlfriend came back to me after she dumped me for being poor. Now her father works for me Part 2. After buying the company, my assistant pulled up all the names who worked for the company. I noticed a familiar last name who was one of the directors for the company. It was Jenny's father. In a few days, I was going to introduce myself as the new CEO of the company and introduce my plans and changes. That also meant firing current workers who didn't meet our standards. The day came for my introduction, and I arrived earlier than expected. I wanted to come as a surprise, so I dressed up casually and blended in with the rest of the workers there. I was enjoying the food my assistant gave to everyone in the lobby until I heard someone call my name from behind. It was Jenny. "Oh my God. Hey! It's been a while," she said. I smiled and made a small conversation. She asked what I was doing here, and when I was about to answer, her dad approached and started talking to us. Her dad didn't recognize me at first, but later recognized me when Jenny said I was her boyfriend she dated back in high school. That's when her dad started smiling and said, "Oh, are you here to clean up after the introduction ceremony is done?" I guess he thought I was the janitor. I smiled and said, "Yes, I work here as a janitor." He started laughing hysterically and made a joke. "Just like your old man, huh?" he said. I'm not gonna lie, that threw me off guard, but I kept my patience. Right when I was about to answer, my assistants went to the mic and started talking. Everyone looked at her, and she later called up my name and asked me to come up to the stage. That's when I walked past Jenny and her father and walked up and introduced myself as the new CEO of the company.
My long-term boyfriend is too attached to my little sister. Every time I leave, she comes over for some fun time with my boyfriend. When I confronted him, he told me I was a monster for doubting him +2 updates. I have been dating my boyfriend for 5 years now. We grew up together as neighbors and were friends for a couple of years before dating. I love him so much, and I want to marry him. His family is great and I adore them all, and he's great with my family too. He also formed a great relationship with my sister. The issue is that I think their bond is too close. My boyfriend and I live together, but he spends a lot of time with her. Although I'm sort of busy, I'm currently in grad school for engineering, so I have to go to my classes. My boyfriend works full-time. My sister is currently taking a gap year, but that 1 year has extended from when she was 18. She comes over when I'm in seminars/classes. They have tons of inside jokes and share the same sense of humor and taste in movies. It makes me feel left out, but when I try to include myself, they both stop being so enthusiastic and act like it's super awkward to have me there. My sister and I were close growing up but started drifting when I went to uni. When my boyfriend isn't there and I talk to her, she becomes kinda cold and sometimes says rude things. Once she told me to my face that I'm not good enough for him and that he deserves better, which made me cry for a couple days. He also gets her gifts for the most random achievements, like he got her a present for making it through the week even though she doesn't do anything. She isn't currently working or trying to pursue a hobby or interest, she's just taking it easy, her own words. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad my boyfriend and my sister are friends, but my major problem is that my boyfriend tells her everything. Literally everything. He tells her things he doesn't tell me, and talks to her about me and our relationship. She knows all our issues and good parts, to a level of detail that I wouldn't even tell my closest friends or parents. She even knows the grades I got on my midterm/finals and what I think about my manager, which I feel is unnecessary for her to know since I didn't tell her myself. I asked him to step back a bit and stop telling her things about me and our relationship, but he was shocked and told me that I'm a jerk for even requesting it. Now I feel guilty, so am I the a-hole? Update 1. The consensus is that there is something shady going on with my boyfriend and my sister, which just makes me want to vomit. I'm now reading into every interaction and conversation and I feel so naive for not noticing the red flags. I'm going to take your guys' suggestions and set up some nanny cams in my apartment. Either way, it'll be good security. If nothing happens, then it'll be reassuring, and if something does happen, well, I'll deal with that afterward. Update 2. I have an update. Unfortunately, it's a bad one, but I didn't have to wait very long to get it. I set up the cams in hidden spots in our bedroom and living room area in our apartment. Today happens to be my birthday and Denise, my close friend, wanted to take me for a day trip yesterday. My boyfriend agreed and said that we'd do something the next day, on my birthday. I told him I'd be out from about 8 a.m. and I'd be home by 8 or 9 p.m., after Denise and I finished dinner. Denise took me out, but she noticed I was feeling a bit off. I was still thinking about the overwhelming number of responses telling me that something shady was going on. I ended up spilling everything while we were eating lunch. Denise was outraged on my behalf and agreed that something was off. She asked if I wanted to cut our day short and drop back home to see if anything was happening, and convinced me by saying that it's better to find out today than tomorrow. We drove back home around 4 p.m. I caught them literally in the act. Why were they doing it at 4 p.m? I don't even know. I just kind of stood there with my arms folded and I hoped with a badass resting B-word face on, although maybe it was more a trying not to cry face. My boyfriend gave me a whole "it was an accident" spiel. I just ignored him and started packing my things. Thank God our lease was up for renewal within the month. He begged me and eventually yelled at me for packing up. The funny thing is, I bought most of the furniture and supplies. So, me being slightly petty, packed as much as I could. Denise helped me and we loaded everything up in her car. We left some stuff that couldn't fit, but I'll go back for that later. The whole time, my sister was sitting stoically wrapped in a robe on my couch, my poor couch. We went back to Denise's house and I had a breakdown. Denise, the angel that she is, provided me with ice cream and fuzzy blankets. My boyfriend spammed me with calls and texts, ranging from "I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, it was only one time" to "this wasn't my fault, you should have been home more," predictable. We decided to check the recordings, and lo and behold, it was definitely not just once. I am really sad that the sister who used to bake cupcakes and do karaoke with me could betray me this badly. My boyfriend, well, he was my first, and in hindsight, he didn't really contribute much anyways. I spent yesterday kind of rotating through being devastated, angry, and self-righteous, but today Denise pampered me all day so it wasn't so bad.
My awful wife lied about going to work for weeks and got fired. Now she's demanding I pay for her therapy and accused me of being abusive on social media when I refused. My fiancée Rose and I have been together for 5 years, and now that we're engaged, things have gone downhill really quickly. Recently, my fiancé was chosen to be promoted to a position in a different department after someone was leaving the company, and we knew about the promotion for some time. Rose was so excited because she waited years to be promoted to manager. I didn't know this at the time, but as the date of the promotion neared, Rose began to ghost her job and ignore various warnings/calls about absences because of her anxiety surrounding it. Mind you, she never talked about her anxiety towards this until after she got fired. Then, Rose revealed that instead of going to work and returning when her shift ended these past 3 weeks, she would instead stay in her car on her phone or go to the gym or a friend sometimes. When I asked her why she lied for so long, she said that her team wanted to throw her a small party to celebrate her promotion before she would leave. But the party made her anxious because she doesn't like to be celebrated because it's embarrassing. Rose also said that public speaking gave her anxiety too, and after learning that she would have to say a few words in a bigger joint meeting after receiving the new promotion, she couldn't bring herself to go to work. I honestly refused to believe anything Rose said because I didn't want to believe that she could lie to me like this. Over the course of those 3 weeks, she ignored calls/emails from her job on her absences until she was fired after numerous warnings. Then, Rose told me she wanted to go to therapy, and asked me to pay for it, in order to work on her anxiety before looking for a new job, and asked if I could cover the expenses in the meantime. So, not only had she lied to me about going to work, ghosted her job, But now she wanted me to overwork myself because she didn't bother speaking to me about her anxiety? My answer was no, especially because she was being selfish. I told her that I didn't appreciate her lying or entitlement to ask me to cover bills for a few months before she searches for a new job. Rose immediately got defensive and claimed I was being unfair because she's planning to go to therapy. While I appreciate her wanting to get over her anxiety, she's going to put us in a financial burden, and I just really wish she would have told me all about this before getting fired. Rose knows how much I value communication, but she chose to keep this a secret from me. In the end, I said I needed a break to reconsider our relationship/engagement away from her. Rose wasn't exactly understanding of my decision, but she would be able to stay with a friend for a few days. However, just 2 days later I called her to say I wanted to call off the engagement and wanted her to remove whatever belongings she didn't take with her. She cried over the phone and begged me to reconsider. I admit my decision might have been an over-exaggeration at the time, but I'm glad I did that by then because my ex-fiancée revealed her true self the very next day. My friend sent me a screenshot of Rose's Twitter page. I was confused at first until I saw that she had posted that I hit her when she told me she had been fired and that's why she broke off the engagement. Rose went ahead and told all of our mutual friends this lie, and many have sided with her. She also reached out to my job to report her abuse, and how could they allow an abuser to work at such a fine company? Luckily, I was not being fired because I had never displayed violent behavior before, so I was let off with a warning, but was told if the allegations were true, I was going to get fired. They're not, but I really need a way to prove my innocence. As the hours pass by, Rose has made several claims on social media that I've been hitting her and making fun of her for seeking therapy. I've been getting calls and texts from my friends saying they can no longer associate with a woman beater and have blocked me. My parents also reached out, and because they liked Rose, they've expressed how disappointed they are in me, and how could I do that to poor, sweet Rose? It's honestly getting on my nerves. I told them she was lying, but until I got actual proof, I was disowned. I've also noticed that Rose's friends have been spreading this lie around on their social media as well. The one she's currently staying with posted about how my ex-fiancé crashed with her because I was aggressive in the past and didn't want her to accept the promotion. She also posted that I was jealous and insecure because with her promotion, she would be making more money than me. So, I threatened her to not accept it. I don't get how that makes any sense because I was so happy my wife got promoted, and I've told her how much she deserves the promotion and how proud I am of her. Posts aside, Rose came to collect her belongings, but she didn't even have the decency to get her stuff herself. Instead, she sent 2 of her friends while she waited in the car, completely refusing to see me at all. Not only that, but Rose called a job she knew I was interviewing for some time, and I haven't heard back about my second interview since, even though I was highly qualified for the job and they liked my work. I'm pissed that she's ruining my life like this, so I hired a lawyer to discuss how I can turn things around and prove my innocence. I originally married my wife because she got pregnant. 15 years later I discovered I am not my daughter's biological father. She was preparing for a family tree project for an online class and wanted to do an ancestry test. My father, who is half Native American, passed away several years ago, and I don't know precisely what Native American heritage is in the family. My daughter came to me because it was my father, and we didn't mention it to her mother at the time. Well, it turned out that my daughter doesn't have any Native American DNA. The obvious conclusion didn't occur to me at first because the truth of the situation didn't seem possible. I assumed there was a mistake, and my first thought was that my father hadn't been part Native American. So, I took the test, and everything became apparent. It was a very emotional situation for both me and my daughter. What I will remember the most is that after she started crying, she hugged me tightly and just kept saying over and over, "I love you, Dad." At home, I confronted my wife, and she looked like she'd had a stroke. She started crying and apologizing. You can probably imagine it. The guilt of what she had done. The reason why we were even married. We had been together for more than a year when it happened. It turns out she was sleeping with multiple guys at the time. She says it didn't mean anything, and she doesn't even remember some of their names. When she realized she was pregnant, she said she wasn't sure who the father was. Since I was unaware of her extracurricular activities, she let me believe I was the father because I was the most financially stable. In terms of that, she may have chosen correctly. I have been very successful in my career, and building passive income streams has been a hobby of mine for a long time. My daughter got my wife to admit to this on tape as she recorded the entire thing. I asked my wife several times, and she keeps insisting that she has been faithful for the entire time we have been married. I've never suspected anything, but I also didn't realize she was sleeping around before we got married, so I've said I don't believe her. I've come across a lot of the red flags of cheaters, and I can't think of any of them during our marriage. She doesn't use social media, and she has never been guarded about her phone. She only drinks on special occasions, and doesn't go out for girls' night or anything. Also, she is a stay-at-home mom, so there aren't any coworkers to worry about. She exercises at home as we have a very nice home gym. I don't believe her when she says she hasn't cheated after getting married, but I can't think of anything suspicious. We have a prenup, so I'm not worried about divorce if it comes to that. My daughter is another story. She is absolutely livid about the entire situation. I know teenagers can be emotional. I certainly remember how I was at her age, but she has never been very expressive, something I thought she inherited from me. My daughter can't stand to be around her mother. She has said some truly awful things to her, basically variations of calling her a dirty B-word who ruined our family. Whenever my wife tries to talk to her, my daughter yells, swears, and cries like I have never seen. Christmas is coming up, and my daughter is demanding my wife leave the house until after New Year so she can spend time with her real family, meaning me. My daughter has even come to me privately, saying that in the event of divorce, she wants to stay with me. She has even asked if it is possible to disown her mother and be adopted by me. I have made it clear, in no uncertain terms, that she is my daughter, and I am her father, regardless of the situation. I've reiterated to her repeatedly that she can stay with me, and I will never leave her. My wife is preparing to leave for her parents' house for the holidays. We have talked about the situation, but have decided to wait until after New Year's to make any decisions. I admit I'm grateful she agreed to leave because honestly, I need some time to process this. I think I'm writing this as a way to come to terms with everything that has happened. Update 1. After my wife left, my daughter calmed down considerably, but is still obviously shaken. We managed to talk it out, and she explained why she got so upset. Apparently, she knows kids at school whose parents are divorced because of infidelity. In most of the cases, especially when the mother was the one cheating, the father tended to distance himself from the family. My daughter knows of one child whose father moved across the country after the divorce. The father only sees his children once or twice a year now. All of this was going through my daughter's head when she realized what her mother had done. My wife wants to talk with me and my daughter very much, basically just to give her a chance to explain. My birthday is a few days before Christmas, and my daughter has agreed to a video chat with her mother. I assured my daughter that if all she wants to do is listen, then that's fine. She doesn't have to say anything. That's what's happened since, and I guess I'll just have to wait and see what happens next. Update 2. My daughter and I have been spending a lot of time together, playing games, watching movies, and doing stuff like that. Even when I'm working on my computer or anything else around the house, she just wants to be in the same room as me, even if she is just playing on her iPad. After the initial shock of everything that happened, I started to calm down and really think about things. I have always taken time to evaluate a situation and make choices based on evidence, so I hired professional help. I had a private investigator keep an eye on my wife. She has location service on her phone and GPS on her car, but the PI confirmed that she only left her parents' house once to go to the supermarket.